that I want to go back and write that down then. So I think
let me undo this.
I understand that. I didn't realize it was hidden there.
Yeah, and lots of times masses will be hidden just straight up. They go from various view templates. Tons of projects. My templates do that just because I don't use masses that often. So,
Gotcha.
Again, you can do the light bulb at the bottom left-hand side. It says reveal right here, kind of where my cursor is at.
Gotcha.
If you click on that, just find anything that's thin is going to be pink. So usually the pole lines for your structural elements are going to be these little pink dots. I'm trying to think what else is usually hidden. Your origin is usually pretty hidden. And then mass, which is this guy. And you just click on it, say unhide category, and now it's going to show up. And then if I undo that, I can do the same visibility graphics. So if I just type in VG,
okay.
Just scroll down to mass, it's unchecked. So if I check it, say okay, it shows up. And that's kind of like the different way about things. So, if something's hidden and you don't see it, usually it's either turned off or it's on a different work set, but we haven't got into that for this project.
Gotcha. And then really quickly, the other thing, as you see, I have a circulating door there, which doesn't exist in real life. None of the glass doors none of those family doors were I able to download for whatever reason. None of them, and I don't know why.
No worries. Give me to find that location of the normal Revit library for Revit real quick.
Somewhere I wrote down the actual error message I was receiving, but like of all of the out of the box Revit doors and that glass doors in the family that I could choose from, none of them were. I wasn't able to download any of them.
I had the same issue too, Chris.
Okay, I'll right now. So let me find it real quick. Let's see. You'll see I've navigated to where the tip Revit families are. So C, program data, Autodesk, whatever your Revit you're in, but make sure it's RVT and not IT. In libraries, a multilingual pack, so it's going to say English Imperial for me. And then doors. Right here, you have door curtain wall, double storefront, and level. So for this one, I'm going to drag the double. And that way it's just in the project. It's going to say at the bottom right-hand side, create this in your current view. And that's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick a panel. So like this one's not really divided with multiple millions or anything, but if you just kind of hover over it, tab, you might have to do it a couple times, but I'll tab, and eventually it'll select the glass. So if I come over here in properties, system panel glazed, first make sure it's not kind of locked in position. So if I come over here where my cursor is, it says pin, unpin. It's giving me the option, so it's not pinned down, which is good. Now if I just click down on my properties, I'll be seeing that's in here. So here's that kind of curtain wall door that we brought in. Let me try to make some smaller glass real quick. So yeah, it's not the greatest, but all you do once smaller door maybe might have been your issue. You can click on the glass plane, so I'm gonna kind of come over and hover over just the glass. Look kind of at the right where my cursor is at the very bottom. It'll say like click, select, tab, alternate, right? You see that? So you
Yes.
can kind of keep an eye on like this spot right here. I'm gonna hover that glass again, and I'll press tab. Say the walls at the bottom left-hand side in that tiny little area right now. If I say it again, tab, it'll say panels, system panel glass. And then I click, and that's what I got. And I can change that to be, since we have door, so I'll just change it to that. And then it doesn't really look like one, but that's probably just because it's an Revit family. Let me drag and drop a different one. I'm gonna bring in a different one and see if it works. So just click on that door family again. Do the little pull down. And then we have it. Lots of times I know somebody online has tried to just load it as a door. And for the most part, I've never been able to do that. I always have to drag and drop it. There's another way to bring it in, but that's just kind of the method I've done over the years for like all the various things I need. And then from there, like in a regular project, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this door. In the properties here, it'll show you, dimensions, width, and height. And if I'm doing like a real door schedule, I'm going to want these to be clean numbers. So, I'll adjust this so it's like a 7 or 8 foot door, and then my width will be, 5'2" instead of the 183, 256. So, it's nice to know that we do that, because if I do a door schedule from this, the door will come up and just look funky in my schedule. I'm just going to act like I'm making one right now. I just make this door schedule. I can look at information because it's every door in the project. And literally without me caring what's on this list, I can blatantly point which door it is, because you'll notice all these doors are 3'7". Then all of a sudden right here, there's that 5'2" and change. On this and go back to 3, it'll just select that door. So if you ever want to find a door that you're not sure if it's the right size or it's messed up or whatever, you can just find it once and go back to a 3D or a plan, and you can find it. So like another example, is this door. Is that door. So just a little kind of helping tip. But Adrian, did that kind of?
Yes, thank you. Drag and drop. I'm going to give that a shot.
And do you need the, or did you already have that as far as files?
Yeah, I think. Thank you. If you started recording, then I'll be able to access.
It's recording right now.
Okay, thank you so much.
So cool. Did that answer as well?
No, it was me, Jocelyn. But
Oh,
yes, thank you.
sorry, I'm not like names on the screen. So yeah, like just, like I said earlier, do what you can. I gave you all the list to kind of, and to give you all an example of my work project that I started on Monday. So that we get out of this, and the questions I have, but I just got greenlit to do this project at Colfax and kind of far east on Colfax. But I had a design set, so y'all have done basically schematic design sets for your other projects, for the library, for center, and a few other things. So 2 days I've worked on this. I've gotten floor plan sheeted. The grid I'm still pushing, so that's not really a good one yet. But I've cut all my building sections. So here you'll see I have one cut here, and I have 3 of them going one direction, and they're all facing the same direction. And then I turn the building, and I've taken building sections here, and they all turn and face that same direction. It's just a real quick exercise. You cut it, and then you sheet it. So for instance, if I go to building sections, same things. You'll cut it, have a nice dark kind of fill for all the things I'm cutting. I can see a little bit of the building beyond, and I've just like the rooms. Like you can sometimes it doesn't take much time, and kind of in the rhythm of doing it, it goes quicker. So the grid ready, I kind of brought them up and down as needed. And then for the wall sections that I gave all a list to do, same thing. I literally cut them from here. So for me, I have a call-out box. If I click on this over to properties, I named mine wall section. I've given it a number, keep it going. And I have, this instantly cuts my wall sections. And then for the time being, this is my wall section. So it's just all about kind of understanding that workflow. I know it's pretty daunting, especially considering, everything else. You'll get the hang of it. It's just going to take some time. So, all I did when I started this, I sheeted all the floor plans. I started cutting building sections where I thought I needed them, and then I also started making here. You'll see I made a call out for this, and the bubble's empty. I haven't sheeted it yet in this model. Same thing goes for the bathrooms, elevators, more bathrooms, parts of the building, but you just cut all the information and you name it so it's ready to go, right? So for me, as far as on my call, right here in the properties where it says 07 vertical circulation, I say edit type. I've actually told it to be associated with a view template that matches that name. You do stuff like that, you start to kind of build like a hierarchy, just start calling everything out. If I were to go on my project browser in the bottom right-hand side or left-hand side, I'm going to close Sheets, and I'm just going to scroll up. And see, I have kind of everything numbered kind of nice and clean. So, 03 building sections, 03 building elevations, 04, unit plans, stuff like that. Lots of firms will have that already set up for you, or you can kind of set it up yourself. But that way, whenever you're looking for a view, I know lots of times y'all might cut views and then have to kind of look for them. And sometimes it's a pain. you know, sometimes you have to go down to this kind of question mark box down here and, you know, hope that that's the view you're looking for. But naming everything helps. So for me, like all these different like stairs and bathrooms, I can go to 0.7 vertical circulation. I click the little plus. I have all my levels on my stairs, or at least all the ones I've cut so far in this current model. And you know, I know to look here whenever I'm doing certain parts. So I think that'll help speed you all along. Let me go back to the library project.
Chris, when you put those calculations or the square footages in the floor plans, do they automatically populate in the sections when you cut those two, or do you have to go and redo?
You have to tag them. So I'll do it in this model just to kind of show you.
Okay.
Lower level. Let's see. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna leave this in space for now. So if I open that, I'll open the first floor as well. So a couple things, I kind of crop these things down just so I don't have to scroll out in space to find my stuff. But I'll leave that for y'all. But you know, just as an example, I got an architecture room, or you can type in RM. You can just start placing them, you know, wherever you need them. I wouldn't even worry about naming them, honestly. I would just kind of go through, you know, getting as many of them placed as you can. And then you can kind of use that image that we've been tracing to start kind of naming stuff. And yes, not all of them are named, but, you know, take educated guesses, name it something, whether it's storage or lab or office. Like I know, like this one isn't named, so all I did was I named this one like storage. Just because libraries tend to have lots of storage, and then I named this one lab, only because across the way, I think this room was like a vault, or actually it's probably this room was like the vaults. Yeah, right? So on your floor plans, you can go through this and kind of do it yourself. You know, try to, you know, number them as well. So you can do 0, you know, 01 through 99 can be the basement. 100 will be level 1, 200 will be level 2, so on. But once you kind of place rooms and name them throughout your projects, if I were to go over to View, Section, when you do that, in the Properties tab, lots of times it'll just stay on Detail. If you click down, usually you'll have an option for Building Section and Wall Section. So I'll just click on Building Section, and I'll just come cut one through roughly right here in the model. We have the building section. The view template wasn't assigned to this one, which isn't really a big deal, but all you would do is you go to Edit, and under Identity Data, you see View Template Applied to New Views. So anytime you cut a new building section, it'll give you that view template, and you would just find one. So I'm not going to worry about making a building section view template right now, but I'll just say architectural section. And if you scroll down in there, usually, okay, and I'll have it in this one, but you know, kick your view template. That way, any new one I cut is going to be associated with that same information. Just say okay. But here, I'll be able to do the same thing. If you go to architecture, and instead of room, you can say tag room. And you can tag those rooms that we've placed in every instance across the building. And that'll help, give you more information. And as far as like the square footage goes, so let's see, we have vault right here. If I go to properties, I'm going to change that room tag to be room tag with area. So right now that vault's 3,200 square feet. On the floor plan, I can do the same thing. You just click on the tag, go over to properties and pull down area. And so anytime this changes, right? So let me hide the background image. Let's say this wall moves in. You'll see now we're at 3,200. I move back out, it automatically updates. And same thing goes for the section, right? 3,288. Move that wall in, 3,274, 3,274. So it'll do it for you. You just kind of need to go through the exercise of placing all the rooms in your model and, numbering them. And then from there, just making sure when you click on this tag, it's room tag with area or just a room tag without area. Most of the times I have area in my floor plans and sections and all that stuff, even though it doesn't matter, just for reference. So in case somebody's looking and they're wondering, oh, I wonder how big that area is. It pops up at the weirdest times. So I just tend to leave it on in any of my views. Does that help kind of answer everything?
Yes, thank you very much.
And from here, like I said earlier, let me just put a view template on this so y'all can read it a little better. Make it all black just to kind of make it pop. So now we have a nice black kind of solid outline around anything that's cut. You can also do, if you go back to the view template, you can go to depth queuing, which is what you'll see me doing in lots of my building sections. If I click on that, I'll just say show depth, and then I'll, pull it wherever I want it. But all that is usually whatever's back here, since we're not cutting through all this stuff, it'll show lighter. So if I go back to my project and go to, let's see, go to this one. So here we'll see kind of part of the building beyond, and it's kind of decently like a full standard color. And then if I go to this guy, we'll see it's kind of faded out. So you can play around with it. And I'm not going to ask y'all to do this for this project. Just know that on the job, they may ask you to kind of make it read better. So this way, everything I'm cutting here is in like solid gray and white. And then everything beyond is kind of just shaded in a color, but farther away. And you do that by using that depth queuing.
Gotcha. Yeah, my sections and elevations have never looked anywhere near everyone else's, and I suspect the answer lies somewhere in all of that stuff you just went through. So I'm looking forward to going back and reviewing that.
No worries, no worries. And like I said, it's going to take some playing. Lots of times, and just go to like your view template, and for for depth queuing, you can just kind of like pull it off to the side as best you can, and just start playing around with it. That way, if you hit apply, it'll kind of update, and every now and then you'll kind of see a change that you like or dislike, and you kind of have to in this instance, you're gonna have to do it a lot, but I do this, and then if nothing changes and you're kind of like, why? You can also come over to your properties and you'll see far clip offset right here. And you know, you can change that to be like, my firm doesn't like to see windows and doors beyond, right? So what we'll do is we'll change that offset to 5 feet or something. And so now it's kind of empty. And you know, there's always going to be that one door that's closer to where you cut at than 5 feet. That's fine. It's just some people don't like it, some people do. But if I do 10 feet, you'll see here some of that comes back, but it's faded, right? So it reads a little better. And then, you know, once again, just remember to go back to architecture, tag rooms. And in this instance, that little box that popped up, when I did that, rooms are not currently visible. It'll tell you, you know, what's going on. So here, rooms are turned off in my view template. I'll just go back to my view template, go to edit model, and rooms is unchecked. So I'll just check it back on. There we go. So now my room tags show up. And if I had all my other floors tagged, I could just tag the rest of the building. And so on that main floor, I know it's not going to turn out the way we want it, just because I know it's not kind of fully done in this, but let's see. So there is a room there. I'm going to put a few rooms in here so I can find it. So here you'll see we have these 2 rooms and we have like a huge atrium. Most times if I cut through the right spot of the building, I would have this go all the way up. So if you just kind of hover over and you click on that room, you'll notice here there's a little pull bar. So you can pull it up if you wanted it to, you know, encapsulate that entire volume of space. So anytime you tag that room on any floor, it'll always tag as that room. But, you know, like I said, rarely do you ever really need to do that. You'll see, like in my project here, I have like a play area for like an early childhood education center. And when I click on the name of the room, I get this little red box that kind of pops up around where that is. So if I were to kind of tab over and find that room, I could pull that up so that when I come to my second level floor plan, instead of just saying open the area below, I could tag the room and say, hey, this is, you know, the play area, right? And then it doesn't see the room here because I haven't pulled it up yet, but same thing. I could go back to that section. I could find this one and pull it up. Go back to that second floor and tag it to be that. So no matter where you are in the building, whether it's a wall section, a building section, et cetera, it's always going to show up. You just have to go to that view and tag it. So if I go back to the building section here, you know, I've already tagged all my rooms. I've already kind of named all my rooms as well. So you'll see numbers and square footages. And, you know, all the various information you need. And when I come to the wall sections, I can do the same thing. Tag room, and that information will show up. But that's, you know, kind of how I'd start, is just getting all the information cut and then she did, and then kind of working on to that next step. And then same thing goes with the grids. Your building is a little taller than the grids. So you click on one of these grid bubbles. In building sections, not always, but sometimes, most of the time in sections, it'll give you the option of 3D, which is kind of here where my cursor is. That will, if I pull it up, it'll pull it up for all the ones and across all my views. And if I just wanted to do it per view, I can click on it and say 2D or 3D. So right now, 2D, and I could play with it here. But then if I were to go to view, call out, and I just do a wall section call out for, this of the building, you'll see the grids are still way above. And same thing, I can click on that grid, make sure it says 2D, and kind of up and down to kind of match how my view is looking, just to save some space on the sheet. Same thing goes with levels. So some firms, they're okay with the level line, this kind of like dashed line going through the views. Some places don't, so they can actually just make sure they're 2D and pull them out. That way there's lines kind of in the way of whatever drawing you're doing. Like I said, it's going to vary firm by firm, so kind of take that with a grain of salt. But, same thing. I could then come in, go to architecture, tag room, and tag all that information. And it's always going to be there. It's always going to be live and kind of up to date with whatever the square footage is or whatever kind of information you want it to see. So if you change that room number here to, X, it'll be room X here. And same thing with my floor plan. So kind of keep that in mind. But that way, like once you've kind of done your floor plans to wherever you want them to be at, you can kind of just tag that information, have it all live, go floor to floor, make sure your numbers all work out or the way you want them to be. And when you start doing your building sections and your wall sections, you can just tag all that information and it's going to be real fast. So that way, if I were to, let's say, make a sheet real quick. I can just come in this building section. I've cut, one wall section. I can go to the other side of my building, do another call out, do one here. I can do one, wherever you need it or want one. So most times when I say wherever you need it, most times wherever you have an exterior condition that's different, you'll have a wall section. And they don't always need to be for the entirety of the building. So, where we have the kind of like higher, like another level and like a little roof plane, you could literally just make the call out be just of this one area. And then the other one will go top to bottom, right? But that way, you see I've cut 3 of them right now. If I click on one of them and just say, wall section 1, you can name whatever you want. Wall section 2, and you can just go from there. Lots of times I'll name them with what they're associated with. So I say wall section at, grid line 14, wall section at, probably like I'll name room just to kind of give it a reference for where that is in the building. There's going to be a variety of different things that you run into. So, be mindful that there's always going to be more options. You're never going to leave named kind of what Revit calls it, just because that's not really descriptive. So if I do a call out and just kind of cut another one. You'll see Revit automatically names it section 1, call out 1. That's completely undescriptive. The next one's not going to be the name of the same thing. It's not going to be named, section 1, call out 3, 4, whatever. Like, it does give it some hierarchy, but it's not really descriptive. So lots of times for my projects, see my building section. So coming back to my project, north and south on this thing is up and down, east and west is left and right. So this one, if I click on it, I scroll down, you'll see I named it building section east and west 1. So that way, if a consultant looking at it, they know, hey, like this is looking east to west. And, you could say like section east to west, so it's cut that direction. And then it'd say looking north, looking south, whatever you need to say. But that way you just kind of know what direction it's cut in my instance. That's kind of the way I like to do it. Everybody's going to have a little different take on that. So take it with a grain of salt. But here you'll see I've cut, 4 of them, let's say. So let me finish it. That way, I come to this sheet. Usually I would have had a view template associated with all of them, but I'm just going to go to sections, wall section, because that's what that was named, right? Click the plus bar, and here you see wall section 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that way, I can start dragging and dropping. Revit will automatically align them for you. So here you'll see the little dashed line. So that way I know 6th floor is lined up with 6th floor. And I can just keep doing the same thing. So here are all my wall sections. They're already named into a scale. All that information that was empty on the building section is now filled out accordingly. So now I would just go back and I would tag, whatever rooms were going to buy my wall section. I probably tag the, so annotate tag by category. And usually I'll change this leader, I'll leave it on, say free end for me. So I could start tagging walls. I could load a floor tag, so annotation, architectural, floor tag. So I can start, bringing in whatever information I need. But that way you wind up information. Some people like to dimension level to level, but I find that to be a little redundant just because you have, 4th floor, 40 feet, 30 feet. It's a little redundant, but some people do it. You can also add spot elevations. So if you have a parapet that's above this, and like you want somebody to know how high it is. So in this instance, we have a handle. I can say annotate spot elevation. And, I can have that information in there. The only reason why we do this is because lots of times there will be rules for how high you're allowed to build. So the absolute top of the building can be based on zoning for the city or whatever restrictions you might have. And that way I can say, hey, the very top of my building is technically my parapet or like an elevator penthouse, or in this case, a railing, and that is 43'1". My building height restriction might be 45 feet. Do that for everything, but that way, once you're said and done, that's done, right? And what I've done is I did all my building sections, I did all my sections. And then when I open up my wall section, you know, I can do the same thing. Just keep building the layers of that information. Detail, you know, I'll say the soffit, so I'll just say, hey. I have tons of view templates, so this is a little bit like cheating, but I have one called 08 exterior details. And I'll just, you know, detail, exterior, soffit at, I think this is metal panel. It's stucco, but I'm not saving this, but you'd name it something to define it, right? So I could say exterior soffit at, let me tag a room, you know, at office or lobby, right? So that way you have a distinctive name. So they say, hey, in my instance, this kind of orange brow element, and it wraps the building. So when I say exterior soffit, that could be anywhere, or simply describe where it is. So they could just, oh, it must be around the entire building, when that may not be true, right? So that's why I try to give it a little bit of a descriptive name. So that way I know that it's cut roughly right here because my entrance lobby is right here. It's just going to help you in the long run. But that way, same thing. I've sheeted the wall sections. I can come in, go to view, call out, come over to properties, and say detail, and cut, you know, this detail. I can name it whatever it be, and just keep going. Like, I don't even need to open it. I just cut it. I can cut another one. You know, let's say I'm going to do a foundation detail. I could cut that, and move on. That way, once all these are kind of said and done, I would be able to go to my project browser in the left bottom left. You could scroll down, and here it says details. So I have detail 0 and detail 1. These are most likely these two details. So detail 0, detail 1. I can make a new sheet and sheet that. And I'm practically like halfway through the requirements for the final, kind of at that point. Does that make sense a little bit?
Yes, thank you. I was wondering where all those wound up as you were doing them, and I suspected they were down there in the project browser, if I remembered correctly, and sure enough, there they are.
Yeah, and just to kind of help everybody, like I'm going to delete this guy. If you name things, right, I implore everybody to name things when they do things. And lots of times your firms will have this set up for you, so you may not have to do them. But just in case, if you go to call out, you know, I just have detail, building sections, wall sections. I can say, you know, edit type, and I can add anything I want, right? I can say duplicate, I'm going to say 03 parapet details, right? And all I do is I say that. I already have it associated with a, you know, a view template, which is fine. I'm going to say OK. So anytime I cut one, it'll add that spot. So now, instead of me looking under detail views, you'll see there's a new one called detail views 03 parapet details. So I can start filtering out everything I want. So every time I cut a detail at a parapet, so let me go to a different spot. Go here, call out, make sure it's that one. Cut it here. I'll go back to my project browser, scroll up, and you'll see I have two views in that folder called detail views, parapet details. So I can filter things by foundation details. I can filter them by parapet. Whatever you need to filter them by to help you find them and kind of know they're there in the future, you can do that just by duplicating the detail view types. Which is why you also have the same thing for building sections, wall sections. Lots of times I'll have another one here for vertical circulation. So that way it filters it all for me and kind of give you all like a more finished view of it. Going back to my other project. Here are all the kind of different views I have set up. So in the project browser, you'll see I have 03 building elevations, 03 building sections. I have 04, units and various things like that. So when it comes to these sections, lots of the times you're going to do building sections, wall sections, and then what I'm going to call vertical circulation. So you're expected to have plans and sections for stairs, elevator shafts, anything that's, to get around the building, right? So here, if I do the checkbox for vertical circulation plans, I have all my stair plans, I have all my elevator plans, and kind of everything I've cut with that information. So I have a plan that's literally just the entry that has my ramp and my stairs, right? Same thing for sections. I have vertical circulation sections, building sections, and this is probably before I cut the wall section ones, but I would have another one saying, 03 wall sections. That way I can kind of keep a bunch of these closed. That way I can just concentrate on my sheets. But you can start filtering information. You know that all your details are going to be in 08 in case your boss wants to see what you've done on details. You can know that they're all filed right there. And in case you need to scroll through it, show them different ones, you can do that. So I tend to kind of use the view templates and those naming conventions just as much as possible to help me organize all my information. Otherwise, what you wind up doing is almost anytime you're working in Revit, any view that doesn't have a view template, you scroll around your project browser, sometimes you'll see like a question mark area. So here we don't have it just because I think I put everything on a view template. But usually you'll have question mark, whatever, right? So that way you don't have to go looking for the views you've made. You know where they are and you don't have to kind of worry about it too much. Let's see. So I'm going to start going through kind of a few of the questions we have. So I know we were talking about section boxes. Did you figure that out, or are you still needing information about them?
That is a question I asked, and for some reason, I can get a section box easily enough, but I can't. I don't know what to do with it once I get it, and then when I want to go back to a regular view, I just have to escape out of that. And getting in and out of section boxes, and for whatever reason, is just an elusive nightmare for me.
So are you talking about the 3D section box where you're looking at one specific kind of item?
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you my personal nightmare. I was in a section box all day today. This model isn't going to showcase the changes I've made, but just to give you an idea, right? Let me close a few of these views. So the big issue I have is this stair is the bane of my existence. It was built way back in a different design of the building, and the stair kind of stuck, but nobody checked up to see if the stair still works or kind of what, if the stair needs to move, right? So what you'll see, let me open up kind of 3 of the floors. So what you'll see is on the ground floor, this kind of blank space down where my cursor is Colfax. You'd approach, and then you could come in, and then you can come up. So here it's just a straight run, north to south, straight run of stairs. And it gets a little confusing, but after you have this cut line, it's considered above your head, right? I have doors underneath my cut plane, so I need to make sure that my stair is not only above those doors, and clear head height is 6'8", like minimum. I also need to make sure I get up to that next level. But I have other situations. So if I come to the second floor, you'll see that the stair that takes me from level 2 to level 3 is over here, and that this kind of empty shaft here is where that stair is. But I have a wall here, I have a unit kind of here, and I have all sorts of kind of various issues, is what I'm going to call them. And I have to find a way to work them out. So I'll do that in 3D. So I'm going to click on just this set of stairs here. I'm going to click on the third floor, or first floor, press Control and click on the stairs here. And in Modify, you'll see I have this section box, or you can type in BX if you like hotkeys. And it'll go to just that area that I'm looking at. So I can see I have the stair we were talking about on the ground floor. I can see underneath that, you know, this stair previously wasn't going up high enough to meet the floor that I made up here. And it's also cutting into that door. So I need to fix all of these things and know that they're fixed. So, you know, I'll kind of work here. And I have my floor. I have a door. But then I have the wall for not only my trash, but also one of my unit doors. So I have to make sure I can get through there. So I have to put an opening in here. And then I have the remainder of my stair to get up to level 2. So I use sectional boxes a lot to kind of work my way through this. So it took me, God, like half the day to get through this, but I got it figured out now. But once you're done, right, and you want to see the entire building again, you press Escape so you're not clicking on anything in your 3D view. You go to your Properties tab, and you scroll down, and you'll see under Extents, section box is checked. If you uncheck that, it'll bring back the entire building.
Gotcha. Now, when you do that section, can you save that as an image or whatever and put that somewhere for placing on a sheet, or what do you do with section boxes? And I'm wondering if it ties in at all to the, like the enlarged bathroom and stuff that you're talking about is
So
requirement
yes, you can do that. And so like I'm going to navigate to a sheet real quick. Okay, I haven't made one for that. Sorry, the little Cisco box sometimes gets in my way. Okay, so if I go to View, Sheet, I'm going to stick to my 30 by 42, and then I have I'm just going to make this sheet, but that's not where we normally go. So here I have my blank sheet. I can drag in, let's say, like those stair plans I was talking about. So here I have stair 1, level 1. It's not really cleaned up yet, but I have that. I have stair 1, level 2. I can literally just start dragging in all the stair plans for that specific spot. So now, let's do it on the floor plans. When I click on that kind of stair to get this section box I had previously, I have just the section box. And in your properties, you'll see there's the same thing. You have extents. So you can say crop view. And you have to make sure that's cropping the area that you want to crop. But in general, I can kind of pull it nice and tight to whatever kind of view I'm wanting to have. You can actually click on this and you'll see under modify here in the middle, I can pin it. So that way you can't accidentally, like if you try to rotate, like that crop is always going to stay the same. And you can actually go as far as to go to properties. You can lock orientation. So let me unpin this real quick, get it back kind of roughly where I want it. Let's say this. For this one, it's not quite doing it, but you'll see that there's locked orientation. So you can lock your orientation. So you have that. And once you go up to views, you should be able to scroll down and there will be 3D views should be the name. So right here, I have 3D views. You press the checkbox and you check the name. So this is called 3D Christopher. Usually every person in your project will have a name associated with them specifically for 3D. So you just find that view and you would duplicate it. So here you'll see I have 3 people in my project. I can say duplicate view. That way I can rename this, like stair axon. Let's just say that for now. I can come back to the sheet and then I can have, like a little axonometric of whatever's going on. So you could have an axonometric of like a unit, right? If you wanted to like show them the floor plan in 3D versus just a standard 2D floor plan, you could do that. There's different things you can show them, but you would do that with a section box.
Gotcha.
Sorry, Chris, I'm still not able to load the curtain wall doors on my project. I don't know, I'm still getting the error which says you have to choose the family files of the category doors. I tried to do the way you just talked about, but it still doesn't work for me.
So you've tried dragging and dropping.
Yeah.
Do me a favor. If you, let's say, go to
Sorry,
architecture.
you mean just drag the door and drop it to my project instead of select it?
So I literally mean navigate to it in your file folder. So,
Yeah.
here
I got
in
there.
your project. And literally, pick on anything, right? So single door glass, click once and hold it. Whoops, I accidentally double clicked it. But you can double click it and load into project, or you can click once and hold and just drag it in. And then it'll say can't create it in current view. But if you were to go to architecture wall and just scroll down and act like you were going to build a wall, usually you'll be able to find it. So I'm going to make a curtain wall. So here's my curtain wall. And then if I press tab, I can find that piece of glass and then it'll give you all the different options. So here you'll see I have that single glass door, which is what I just brought in. I have the double one that I brought in previously, and you should be able to just change it. So lots of things you can drag and drop. Like you can drag and drop furniture, you can drag and drop anything you want. So if I go to desktop and I navigate to my kind of personal library, whoops.
So do I need to create another curtain wall for that before? Because I wanted to put it on the existing curtain wall I have right now, but it doesn't work on that.
So let's see. Do you want to share your screen?
I'm actually using a separate laptop for watching WebEx and
Okay.
I
No
can,
worries.
yeah.
I'm just trying to find a good way to show it to you. So for me, if I come to my other project here, all I did is once I brought that door in to, the storefront you have. So let's just say I'm going to use the storefront I've already made. Let me uncrop my view. So I have storefront right here. There's no doors in it already. There's nothing, special about it in any way. If you just zoom in, you hover over kind of the mullion and the glass, like some corner is usually what I would try to do. And you press tab. First I get the mullion. I get a few things in space, but eventually I'll tab and I'll get the glass where you have this rectangle of blue. Right, so I have that. You'll see right in the middle there's a little pin. I can either click on that to unpin it, or I can go up to the top of my modify tab, and it'll say unpin up here. Once that's unpinned, it's not always pinned, but for me it's going to be pinned most times. I can then navigate to properties and do the little pull down. And you should be able to scroll, up, down. For me, it's down. Sometimes it's up, depending on the name of the file. But here I have, full glass door for curtain wall. And it'll put it in there. And if it doesn't work for you, my first step is going to be add a few mullions. Like add some, if you go to architecture, curtain wall grid, add some grid lines just to make that piece of glass smaller. Just to see if maybe like you need a smaller piece of glass to add a door to.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna try it.
No worries. While we're waiting, does anybody have anything else we need to kind of talk about?
When we're doing door schedules, or I think door schedules, like I know we reviewed before, pulling over the doors from the top view and then from the elevation view. Can you review that just very quickly?
The legend.
Thank you. Yeah, the legends.
Sure. Let me go back to this project. So the way I'd kind of start out is if you go to view and you go to drafting view. So just empty view. It's not cut from any specific point in the model. It's just an empty view that's not associated with anything. You start by creating one of those. You can name it door legends. Scale isn't a matter off the top of my head. I just don't remember what I typically use. So just create one empty sheet, nothing in it. If you go to annotate, you'll see that you have component and there's a little pull down. If you click there, you can find legend components. Let me. I think why it's not letting me. Oh, sorry, did it wrong. Sorry, go to legend, right click, say new legend, door legend. Sorry, I do things wrong sometimes. So start that way. You scroll down, it's right above the tab for sheets and schedules. It says legends. You right click there, say new legends, name it whatever you want. You should be able to go to annotate, component, then you go to the little pull down, legend component, there we go. And you should be able to find whatever doors that you've used, whatever windows that you've used, etc. So I'll choose, this curtain wall door, and I'll just place it for now. So it's just showing the door swing, kind of location lines, nothing else. But you'll see it says family, and I'll name it view. It says floor plan. You would just change that to be, front. And you can change the height of it. Most times it's not really going to matter too much, just because it's going to be kind of generic. But you can do that, right? And that way we have 6 foot by 6 foot door. If you wind up with a different size door, like lots of times what you can do, just because this is kind of weird where, what happens if my door is an 8 foot by 6 foot door? It doesn't give me the option to kind of do that. Lots of times that door in your door schedule is going to convey the information you need as far as width and height. So the legend is only there as a reference. So you could say, hey, my doors are always going to be 6 feet wide, but the height, I'll click on the dimension string and say replace with text. And you can say, varies RE door schedule. And it'll put that text there for you. And that's just so that when the contractor looks and he sees, let me add text real quick. So when he sees door type A, he can look at it and be like, okay, it's a curtain wall door. The height's going to vary, but the width is always going to be the same. You can also go as far as to say, hey, my frame, instead of saying, replace with text, I can say below, say TYP for typical. So typically my door frame is always going to be 2 1/4. He knows every frame around the perimeter is going to be 2 1/4. You could just do that for every door that you have, every window that you have, whatever you need it to do. Does that answer your question?
Chris, are you talking to me?
Sorry, say again?
No, I said, are you talking to me?
No, Ryan asked if the door legend piece.
That was helpful. I went to grab my readers. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. And then back to curtain wall. Did that curtain wall work out for you?
Sorry, Chris, it doesn't work. It doesn't let me to drag the door into my project. That's
What about?
I can share my screen now.
Okay, I was gonna say, let me share your screen if you can. So let's see.
Okay. Okay.
So the door, hit escape for me.
Mm,
So zoom in on that curtain wall you have drawn.
yeah, I just drew this. Actually, let me. I'm gonna choose door. I'm gonna load family.
Don't load the door.
Oh,
I've tried this multiple times, and for whatever reason, Revit doesn't like to load a door that way if it's a curtain wall door specifically. It'll let you load any other door, but for whatever reason, the curtain wall door doesn't want to work that way. That's why I was saying drag and drop for that door.
oh, okay.
And it's not gonna, and that door isn't gonna show up immediately, right? You're gonna drag and drop it, and a little pop-up box is gonna pop up on the bottom right-hand side.
Yeah.
So have you already done that?
Not that way. You mean I should go to my drive C?
So go like open a file folder, like
Yeah,
just regular Windows.
Yeah, I'm just doing that. And Revit library. Oh. Oh, okay, that way. Yeah, I was trying to load the doors from Revit. Yeah.
Yeah, so see it says can't create kind of element in this view, and that's fine. That's perfect. That's what we want.
Okay.
So now if you tab and click on the glass, click there.
Yeah, I have it now. Thank you.
No worries, no worries.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Thank you.
No worries. So anything else? And kind of, I know a bunch of y'all are probably busy working. Like I said, just try to build in as much information as you can. I know not everything's going to be perfect. So I know, ceilings aren't going to be perfect because we can't see what ceilings are in there. I know there's a lot of information I've kind of asked y'all to get in. So, keep that in mind. Just do your best and get as much as you can. My advice is get everything sheeted. That way you can kind of start filtering, what information you have done, what information you still need to do. And, you can pick the way you want to do it. So some people like to kind of perfect one plan and move on to the next one. You see that I take kind of multiple passes. So I'll build some information in now and come back and build the rest later. Do whatever workflow you think works best for you. And, just take steps moving forward. I know this isn't going to be perfect, and I know it's a large scale building and we don't have kind of 360 images around the entire building and all that stuff. So just do the best you can. To answer one of the questions I have here in my email, for the exterior. So if I were to for the exterior, one of the questions was like, hey, let's say I don't want to wrap the entire building in single panels because it takes forever and it bogs down my Revit model. Like, how do you kind of convey this, right? You could take an image of this, chop it out, and then make it as a material in Revit, and then just kind of spam it that way. It may not always look right just because of the whole idea of how big that image is and how and where it repeats. It'll be helpful, and it may look right in a lot of instances, but it won't always look right. And like I said, it's going to be up to y'all. Obviously, we've talked about model lines previously. Some people on building elevations will use filled regions to convey kind of information like this. Like I said, it's going to be up to y'all. but try not to be too intimidated by it.
I see Sogol seemed to nail it. How did you do that?
It just took 2 hours.
Oh my gosh, that was cool looking.
Yeah, it looked really good.
Yeah, thank you. It was really time consuming. I wish I didn't do that.
For a few of y'all, you'll see that, here we have a bunch of separate panels and it's time consuming. And then the question is, how do you do the edges, right? But, like I said, I'm not expecting it to be perfect. I just want y'all to have the skill set to be able to make it work if you need to. So, take the dive and do what you can.
Just thinking out loud, but couldn't you do or maybe this is what Sogol did, but do a second panel and add it onto there that would just have a kind of a, a straight edge on that side, a square cut on that left side.
It seems so, but you would have to make like a lot of different. It'd be cool if everything worked out just so that the one straight edge panel that you created was the exact dimension. But each wall was different lengths, so I seem to run into different. You'd be creating a number of different straight edge things, but yeah, I think
Okay.
you can do that. Yeah.
And again, I haven't gotten there. I focused on furniture for some reason. I had a lot of fun with those weird kind of like triangular tables.
That's cool.
How thick are these? Do you know, Adrian, how thick you made them?
I'm sorry?
Do you know how thick you made these panels?
1.5 inches.
And what's the material names?
I think I did aluminum. I think I don't know. I horsed around with. I went a deep dive into a variety of things, and
Well, either way, it doesn't matter too much. But in general, I've made one, right?
yes,
And all you have to do is, now that you have this, I'd probably wind up doing this in the building elevation. It'll be a little easier. But you can copy and paste it into place wherever you need it. And then all you would do is you would click on this guy. And, let's say the square edge is a little longer. You can then pull that.
oh, that's cool.
So that way you
superior.
You could do that. There's different options. Like I said, like, you've done a great job at starting it and understanding how to make something that's, based in a material in case you ever needed to schedule it. There's obviously other issues, but like I said, you get a bigger concept of how to get that communication across. And that's most of what I'm looking for. So, there's always going to be multiple ways to do things, especially in Revit. But that's one way to turn the corner.
Gotcha. Thank you. I look forward to horsing around with that.
Sorry for the shades on the curtain walls, like the horizontal shades. How we can create them? It's out of mass, or it could be out of component.
So if I'm right, this one's downloaded from BIM object. Is this correct?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So you can
Perfect.
yeah, like that's my number one go-to. If you need something, see if they have it on BIM object. You can just download it. If you want to make one yourself, it's going to be making a custom family that is face-based. But the reason why I say just download it project is, in this case, you'll see that this guy has the option where you literally can tell it the width and distance to the mullions, which is important because each time that, time you have a project with different mullion lengths, when you make some shapes like these, the supports are going to come out of the mullions. So this way you can tell it to span mullion to mullion without you having to adjust it every single time you have a different condition. And so you'll see Conair, you might see some Oldcastle. There's lots of different curtain wall manufacturers, but they'll usually have a sunshade element you can download, and it'll be smart enough to kind of create what you need.
Okay, thank you.
So if there's no more kind of larger questions, I think I'll probably take like a stab at doing like at least one detail for y'all kind of here tonight. Otherwise, I was going to leave it up to like kind of bigger questions. I know this is probably our last class of the semester. The syllabus said the last day of the semester was on the 9th, which was like a Monday, which seemed a little weird. So I ran the 9th. So I need to kind of double check that. But, I listed in an email, just, hey, send it to me by end of day, Monday, December 7th. I'll grade it and get it back and kind of finish everything up for the semester. If y'all had anything you needed to do, like redo, as far as like homeworks you may have missed or not turned in, same thing, all due December 7th. Just know that if you are redoing homework, it's going to be, I'm not going to give you like 100 just because it's late and have to be redone, but I will give you a better grade than what you had. Just kind of keep that in mind for any of y'all who may kind of have a few things you want to get back to or turn in. But real quick, I'm going to take a stab at a detail. We can talk about it a little bit, and then from there, I was going to open kind of like larger questions beyond class. I have my new portfolio and old portfolio. I think I have some friends' portfolios, but like that in case you want to talk about it and see some of it. And yeah, whatever else you want, I can kind of look into it and see if I can grab questions to answer whatever you have. But, just be thinking about that kind of ahead of time.
So the due date for our final project is Monday, right?
Correct. End of day.
End of day, okay.
If y'all have already done a bunch, feel free to like send me what you have in red line, go through that. Just like I said, let me know. The holidays kind of got in the way of the past week, but so for details, kind of the ones I'd probably go through. Let's see. Sorry, that image kind of gets in my way sometimes. I'm going to do kind of a mullion at a corner in the panel. So, like I said, I'm going to ask y'all to pick a few different ones. Y'all can do them in sections. Y'all can do them in plans. It's not going to matter. You would just go to whatever view has them. You would go to View, Call Out, and Detail, And you would just kind of make a generic circle over the area that you wanted. And I'm just going to make some detail, curtain wall at metal panel corner. It's kind of a long name, but so be it. I'm going to make a new sheet. And then I'm going to go back to my project browser, navigate to go find that view. So I'm going to go to details, open it up, and I have detail, curtain wall, middle panel corner. I'm going to open up this view. I like to work on sheets. Some people like to work in views. You know, I can't really affect my sheet, so it doesn't really matter to me. But I like to work this way that I can kind of scrunch up the view of plots. I can see how big it is on the sheet. That's just the way I like to work. Y'all can, find however y'all like to work. But, roughly this is going to be my detail. I'm going to go back to why is it not? Sorry, wouldn't let me scroll down to see my view template. I'm going to change my detail level to coarse. You can change it to fine. It's not really going to change anything major. Okay, so for any of y'all that accidentally pull this the project browser and property browser off the edge of the screen, most times you can drag and drop it back where it was, kind of top, which is what I'm trying to make it do. You're going to see me exit out. It's kind of scary originally. Let it go. You go to view. You go to the far right-hand side. It says user interface. You can just click on project browser and properties. Usually it'll pop back up where it's supposed to. In this instance, it did not. There we go. There we go. Back in business. That way I can see kind of the detail of my wall. I can see like here, I'm guessing the gray is kind of the metal panel. So this wall is actually backwards. So here it's like the chipboard's on the outside of the building when it should be on the outside of the building. All you do to fix that is you click on the wall, you right click, and you can say change wall orientation right here. And it'll flip the wall around for you. So now the wall's kind of back where it should be. And then you can start bringing in detail components. So whether you want to drag and drop them like we were doing, or if you want to look them up one by one. But all you would do is you go to the typical Autodesk default families. You'd see detail items, and you can start grabbing stuff. So this kind of helps teach you specs for, it's not anything you're going to be doing anytime soon, but specs is basically a book of information that gives you information about the products and materials used in constructing your building. And they're divided up into different divisions. So here you'll see all my detail items are divided up into division. And this matches what would be a normal spec book. So I can come to division 4 masonry and CMU, so concrete masonry unit. And I can say, I want CMU section side, and it'll give you like a little preview. So I want CMU for top, and it'll just bring in like a 2D component of a piece of CMU. You can change that to be like an 8x8x16, and you can kind of start placing that as need be. You can do the same thing with metal studs. So if I click on this wall, say edit type, here it's 11 5/8 concrete masonry unit. So I can click on my detail item, find that. And then you can just start placing where you need it. So you'll see me kind of place it roughly there. I can say AL for a line. And then I'll tab to find something to kind of tab to. And then tab here. And that way I can remove, grab one of the corners and bring it in. So we have our masonry unit. And kind of copy that as needed. Or same thing goes with metal studs, 16 inches on center, 24 inches on center. There's a variety of things it could be. For me, you'll see I'm just going to kind of get a few pieces. Copy a few pieces up. So, I have my masonry. Just know in real life, they're gonna grout. They're gonna find like a solid grout kind of corner, and they're gonna grout this kind of empty full, so you don't have an empty corner because that's just weird. Lots of times they're gonna have steel in the corner, obviously, so that's gonna help you kill your corners most times. So you could go to annotate, region, and I'm going to create a new one and just call it concrete. I'm going to change the foreground fill pattern here at the top to be concrete. And I fill it in. Some firms might have families for it. I know I worked at a firm that had that as a family, where it had basically one of these units that you could say 2-cell or 3-cell, or like corner or not corner. And it would also let you turn off the grout if need be as well. You could do that. You can give it the cross pattern instead. That's kind of the option. To say crosshatch. The only problem is it doesn't let you align it. Not all the time. So things to keep in mind, but possible, right? And then same thing. I would go in. I would go back to my detail items. I could say thermal insulation. I would say thermal, rigid insulation in section. That way I could just take this. Let's see what the insulation is first. We have 3 inches. And then you could load up chip, you could load up anything you want. And the only reason why you do it this way, like, yes, lots of this information is already built into your wall, But the nice part is, if I were to go to Keynote and change it to text, you'll see here it does it all for me. So bring the original installation. Let me turn off my drop. I'll say a 12 by 8 CMU core. If you do details where you add the components, it takes longer to do the detail, but it's custom. You can make it however you want it. So, you know, let's say this wasn't, let's say it was metal stud. If you drew it as a metal stud wall, you would see white in the center, right? Because we don't kind of show it. You would, you know, do the same thing, but like a little differently, or you would just have that white fill. I'll do it on this wall real quick. Delete these two. I'm going to hit type. Duplicate it and change CMU to metal studs. So now it's kind of like white center, right? Same thing. Then you would go to details. This is where you're going to see me search a little bit just because I always forget kind of where it is. I'm going to duplicate this one so it's the same size as what we have. So 11.5 inch, 11 and 5/8. So that way, you know, we have this, and, you know, let's pretend we're actually making one where it goes from CMU to metal stud. That there. You can then copy this, make sure multiples kind of turned on. If the little angle, and it will snap for you most times to follow the same kind of angle that you have it at. And you can literally just turn, you know, 16 inches, 16 inches. And so here, you know, I'll see, but you have that profile in there. Start showing that in plan. Some places you'll see that they do a box, kind of like a box beam. So they'll actually put two studs together to act kind of like a weak beam because it's cheaper and kind of easier, but it gives you a little bit more stability. So you have two of these kind of put together in a corner. You can go to annotate and then go to insulation. Tell it to be whatever size it is within a 1/2 inch of the stud size you have. So if I have a 6-inch stud, I usually say 5.5. In this instance, I have an 11-inch, 11 and 5/8. So I'll probably just say 11-inch insulation. And then you just kind of draw it. And the reason why I do that is because if you draw the stud in like section, like in elevation, if you're doing like a section cut, you'll get these little dashed lines. So if I do DL, I usually get a dashed line following these little arms that turn in. And if you do a 1/2 inch off the insulation, it'll connect with it, but not kind of intrude upon it. And it just reads cleaner to me. You know, like I said, people have different opinions on it. But you can start doing this for the entirety of your drawing. So I'd kind of pull that all the way through. And, you know, you're going to start seeing lines upon lines. That's fine. If there is stuff you want to bring up, like let's say I want this on top, you can click on that detail. And just kind of like in Photoshop, you'll see here it says bring to front or send to back. So I can say bring to front. And now that stud is on top of the insulation. And, you know, you can do that for other things. So we have that. We have our insulation. Let's bring up our kind of channels. I'll go back to metal. So I'll see channels in section, drag and drop that in. Most times these are going to run horizontally. Sometimes they run this direction, but like I said, it's going to be on your manufacturer and kind of the detail you want. And then I would just change this to be a deeper one. So this is 2 inches. I would edit this, duplicate it, inches, change 7/8 to, and you know, different sizes, but you can get more specific there. But you know, let's say I wanted one, but they're every so often. Usually they're every, whatever the size of the panel is. So if you have a metal panel that's 2 foot by 2 foot, these little hangers that are holding onto your metal panels are probably going to be every 2 foot to 2 foot. So let's just say 2 feet. It's going to be off my view, and let's just say 2 feet. Let's just be smart about this. I'm going to pull it, should pull the corner from the beginning, but pull it to the corner of your structure so it's anchored to kind of the face of the CMU through the insulation. Other details you'll see, they'll actually have a little channel. Let me see if I can find one real quick. Sometimes they'll have this little kind of section, like a little differently. So that the idea is you could have a piece of insulation sit and end in both sides, and it would stick through the insulation in like a minimal fashion, but not be too intrusive, right? It just wouldn't have these little turn-ups here. But you could do that, and then this guy would kind of attach to that. There's a variety of different ways, and you'll see it in details for different things, but you know, you can have these guys, you can have these guys. But, you know, I have that. So just start, you know, you keynote everything. So insulation, channel.
I just missed how you did that. I was going to ask you again what the toggle thing was that you turned on that allowed you to put those descriptions there.
So this is all standard out of the box Revit, but keynotes, right? So if you go to annotate, come way over to the right, you'll see keynote element. You can do keynotes by elements, material, or just user-based.
Gotcha. I'm sorry. I thought I saw you do that originally somewhere within the graphics tab over there. And then I was going to ask you if the same feature was available or for like the material callouts that you wanted on all of the rest of the building. Is that the same keynote?
Yeah. So if I go to
Gotcha.
annotate and I go to material, let's see if we'll do it. Okay, it won't do it on this one, but you could set it up that way to do that. So if I go to annotate user keynote, I just click on something. It'll let me pick what I want it to associate with. I could say metal. I could say, it's going to be all the typical stuff in Revit, so it's not going to have custom ones yet. But you know, you could say whatever you want. We didn't really deep dive on it too much in this class. We just kind of briefly skimmed over it. If you go to keynote settings, you actually have, right out of the box, Revit's going to have kind of a set of keynotes already established. You can make your own. All it is a text file. It's a really dumb text file. So if I'm going to navigate to it real quick. Libraries English. Okay. Give me a second to navigate back to there. So here it'll have, you know, Keynotes Imperial, and it's a really kind of generic text file. It looks a little intimidating. It's just because they built in kind of plus and minus tabs for homes and like smaller projects. It literally can be as simple as, you know, all these numbers. You would just have 0. I'm gonna get rid of some. So just kind of don't let it, you know, freak you out too much. I'm gonna enter a new line. I'll say 01. I'll press tab, and I'll say random keynote. Right? That's all I'm gonna add. I'll press save. And then now when I come back to this guy, let's see, was that the 2004? Let me make sure I did the right one. Let me do it to this one too. And they also have apps that you can buy where it'll do keynotes for you. So I'm going to say reload. It'll say reload successfully. I've worked at firms that do it differently. So I've had one firm where you make custom keynotes for your project over and over and over again. I've had one firm that has, like, they paid a spec writer to build a, you know, massive keynote library that's just almost too much, to be honest with you. And then there's this, which is kind of new. Like, keynotes in Revit always existed, but they were never a full library like what you see here until, God, I don't remember what year, but it was 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. But keynotes, like I said, aren't always used. So then I would just go to Keynote again, say User Keynote, click on whatever I want, kind of angle it however I want, and then now you'll see 01 random keynote. And what you saw me do earlier in the project browser where it had the options was you can click on, let's say, this 12-inch joist piece, right? If you go over to your properties in Keynote, you have the option of a number. So it's going to be a spec number. So division 5, you know, section 22, subsection 00, whatever, right? Some places like spec numbers versus names. Other places like names over spec numbers. So it gives you the ability to switch between the two. So in this one, my keynote number would be 01, right? But you can build in that complexity depending on how you want to see it. So once you have that, let me kind of pull this out. You would make your detail and you would finish it, right? You could then go to schedule, right click on it, say, let's see, new schedule. I'm trying to remember if it's schedule or legend, because I'm pretty sure it might be legend. Let's try that one first. See, new keynote legend. If you click there, I'm just going to say keynote legend. Press OK. You know, it's created one. And then I can drag and drop that on my sheet, right? So any keynote I use across any detail will populate on this schedule on this sheet. So once you have, you know, like 5, 6 details on a sheet, all those keynotes, let's say you did all numbers, they could look over here and say, hey, you know, 01 random keynote, if that was a number, right? You could start doing it that way. So all I would show would be keynote number 01. I'd probably put a box around this just so it's a little cleaner, but you know, they could say 01, what is 01? They would then look at this box. They'd know 01 random keynote. That's an option for how you can do things. Like I said, you can type everything up. That's the way my firm prefers it. I'm not a huge fan, but that's the way they prefer it. Some of the old places I worked at, you know, they preferred keynotes. They thought it was quicker and more efficient, but they needed more front end time to set up all those keynotes, right? So if you're setting them up per project, you'd have to make, keynotes for whatever you have in your project. So stucco, brick, metal panel, what have you, right? And the biggest issue that you have when you kind of use a company standard one is going to be there's always going to be that project manager that wants a different verbiage, right? So instead of, 3-inch rigid insulation, maybe he just wants to say, R39 rigid or whatever, right? So you're going to have to go into that keynote file and change that to say whatever verbiage you want it to have. And that's my weak point. I tend to always just go over and be like, hey, what do you want to call this? Here's my stab, right? I'll say brick veneer. They'll say, brick wall assembly. Different little things here. But that's keynotes, and that's an option for you if that's the way you want to do your detail. And like I said, you just kind of fully flesh it out. You'd call out the chipboard. You'd call out the resilient channel that would be holding the drywall off the CMU. You'd call out the CMU. You'd probably call out the weather barrier. So going back into this, same thing. You could go to, let me navigate back to the families real quick. But while I do this, did that answer your question about the keynotes? You can customize them. And
yes,
it's as simple as just saying 01 tab in a name, 02 tab in a name. But usually they have everything kind of built in for you. I was trying to find my membranes, but gutters, roof edge. Let's say TPO. And so this company actually had a line that you could draw that would be your, roof membrane or vapor barrier or whatever. So, I could tag it, or not tag it, I could keynote it to be, whatever. And I could just say, hey, it's in division 7. It's a vapor barrier, and I could say vapor retarder, I could say air barrier, I could say kind of all these different options. But now, anytime I draw this line again, so if I say create similar, I just draw one out in space. Every time I draw a detail and I have that in there, it'll remember it. And that's where keynotes kind of become something that saves you time. But yeah, so in this instance, you could do that. You could add the metal panel as a thickness. The mullion, like I said, this is technically the wrong mullion. You can bring in a mullion from whatever company you want to use. My advice would be to just literally just hide it in this view, because what's going to happen is if from a architecture standpoint, a clean kind of vision of what you want your building to be, I would probably want this to be super minimal. I don't even want to see a mullion, but you need one, right? So I could either bring in a detail component of a mullion. So I type in mullion. going to say mullion capture jam. So they have a detail component for literally a jam, right? I can make it whatever depth I want it to be, which is kind of nice. I can give it a different glass thickness and a different height. But, you know, like I said, you can also get them from whatever manufacturer you're using. But if I was doing this, I would pull this guy in to either sit on my CMU or, you know, sit so that the face of it was almost flush with that metal panel. So it just doesn't look like there's a mullion. Like it looks like my glass dies directly into, you know, the wall. It's, you know, it's going to be expensive, but it looks nice, right? But you just kind of finagle that to be what you want it to be. What I'm going to wind up doing is, let's see. Trying to see if I have an aluminum panel piece. And lots of times I'll just kind of fake what I want. So I'll just go to waterproofing. I'll take like a protection board or something like that. And draw it roughly on the spot. You can edit that family to have like a different, you can edit that family to make, you know, instead of it being called protection board, it could be called aluminum metal panel. You could have a different fill pattern, you know, the usual kind of stuff. But that way, I could keynote it, right? So if I go to annotate, I could do user keynotes, or I could just do regular keynotes. I could call it out to be whatever it is. And that way, every time I place it as I walk around the building, it would be the same. And then here, if I were to do things kind of like the way I would want to do things, I know there's going to be a few issues as far as kind of like thermal breaks and stuff like that. But I think I'd probably wind up putting that thermal stuff on my mullion. My mullion would have a thermal break on it. And then the gap between my CMU and this mullion would be blocking, whether that's like a stud or most cases it's going to be a piece of wood that they're going to kind of shove between it. And then I just put a filled region over it to kind of hide the stuff we don't want to see. I should have made it a masking reason, but I didn't. So I'm just going to make one real quick. And so, you know, here I have this. It could be a little deeper, obviously. It could be a piece of wood, so I could do the same thing, but say detail items, wood, say rough cut lumber. Usually I'm looking for blocking. Sometimes they call it kind of different things, but I'm going to back out a little bit. So most cases it's going to be a piece of wood. This one that I brought in, I looked for it specifically because it's adaptable. I can kind of pull it to be kind of whatever size I need. So therefore, I could, once I'm done, I could grab this wall, I could hide it, and all the detail components I place would be there. I would usually turn off the floor just because I don't want to see kind of that texture kind of distracting from the detail. But once you have everything in there, it kind of builds layer upon layer to make these details look nice. You saw me just kind of throw this together real quick, so it's not going to look as nice as it could. But just different things to keep in mind. And they have detailed components for everything. So theoretically, I could actually go and hide this piece of curtain wall. And then I could load up a piece of glass. Details take forever, so don't worry about them, being like, man, there's so much work involved and yada, yada, yada. They're always going to take a long time. And that's just kind of the nature of what we do. And that way it just looks nicer. So
I guess I need to learn how to navigate my files and manage them. I didn't realize searching like that got you those details. I thought you had to know the secret handshakes and everything to get into all the various folders and where things were hidden.
Well, that's the thing. So, like I said, it's going to be on your workflow. Some people are going to remember them. Some people aren't. So for me, like, as dumb as it sounds, like, I may have a license and yada, yada, yada. To this day, I still don't always remember what division certain things are in. I look it up if I need it, but I may not remember it off the top of my head, but I at least know, hey, the item I'm looking for is a detail item. So I know it's going to be in this folder. So now I can just go from here and say, I'm looking for glass. And it narrows it down for me. It's just trying to be like, I don't want to say smart about what you're looking for, but finding a workflow that works for you. So lots of times, like kind of early in the semester, I was always trying to find the metal stud on the side. So I could say like stud, here's some C studs. I can say top, side, section, versus me having to be like, so the studs I was looking for, right, are metals, structural metal stud framing. I'm kind of like, duh, now that I see it, but lots of times I just don't remember it. So then you'll see me like, is it steel decking? No, it's not. Is it a metal fabrication? Because that's kind of generic. No, it's not. Just, you'll find a workflow that works for you and run with that. So don't be afraid to just type it in. And if anything, it'll help educate you about how things come together. But it takes time, so don't worry about not getting it off the bat. However, one thing I want to do real quick, so sorry to kind of cut you off or anybody else that had questions. Let's go ahead and take a break. It's 8:10. So let's come back at, let's say like 8:25. And we'll jump right back into it. Does that sound good?
Yep, see you in a few. I was going to say, now I'm remembering, so you just like select a big giant area, 4-plate or whatever, and then you click this sections box and you get this. I think I got it.
Okay. Yeah, but that's all you do. You click on whatever you're after. So lots of times, like in that other project, you saw me do it for stairs. It's kind of the one I do it for probably most often. So I'll click on these stairs. I'll go to modify selection box right here. Click there, and it'll give me just whatever I clicked on as kind of a cubic volume. So it's not going to be super tight. It's going to see a little bit of context around it, but it's tight enough for me to use to get an idea of what I'm looking at. And then all you do is you click on the lines around it, and you could pull it up. You could pull it out. you could pull it whatever direction you need to find kind of what you're looking to show. And it just gives you an ability to look around the model.
So my quick last question is, would you mind go back to the image one more time?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you zoom in on the first, the number one area on the left side, like what is the wall actually? There is three type. So the one inside, is that a wall like those three one? Because I'm kind of, yeah, like I just want to know, like, so you see how there's three line over there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I honestly just faked this. I couldn't figure out why it was drawn like that or what it was exactly. And I know it might be like a lip of like a lower wall, like a concrete retaining wall maybe or something here. But then this inner one just seemed really odd. So
yeah, even looking at the photo himself, it's kind of the outside is kind of those panel you can design actually and put it on it. But yes, so even though the current wall, it you know, on the picture, it kind of on the lower level, but on the first level, we can see the curtain wall right here, but behind in the same thing, we don't know if there's a curtain wall or it's just kind of the panel that once they do the section cut, is kind of represented by the little dots around the whole building. That's what I'm just a little bit confused about.
So this means there's something above. So dashed lines usually mean there's something above you, and all that is it's the depth of the wall. So those deep reveals that you see, like right here, technically, like there's a wall back here that makes this curtain wall.
Yeah.
And then the line of this metal panel above that kind of sticks out. That's all that line is representing. So let's see. The original image. So if you look at a corner, right here, it sticks out like a nice chunk further.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that line's representing. It just means that there's something hidden and above. So usually in architecture, you're going to use dashed lines. They'll call them hidden. They'll call them dashed. Basically, it means there's something above you. And so lots of times, like when I open up this other project, the project I'm working on currently, you'll see I had dashed lines and I said open to play area below. And then I have my dashed lines. I'll have more dashed lines later on for like a trellis that's going kind of right here by my door. But most times when you do that, it means there's something above you that you can't see, but you need to communicate that it's there. So here you have two openings above you. Some other things might happen here as well. So sometimes it's just room separations. There's a variety of things, but usually if they're on the perimeter, especially like this, that just means there's something above you that you see.
Gotcha. Thank you.
What about that upper right-hand corner area? I wasn't able to figure out. Yeah, that I wasn't able to understand what that is.
I made that mechanical. Like, let's see. This isn't my model, but I took a guess. It has a big kind of weird looking door, which I think they actually must have drawn that wrong. It's my guess, but it's possible. I'm betting it's a mechanical room. So I think you have your mechanical here, electrical, and then maybe like switch panels or like an IDF room or something back here. But I'm betting all this is like mechanical and utilities, just because that's the only way to me you justify having, let's see, like an awkwardly huge door like this, which I think this is just wrong, like an accidental kind of thing. But as you go up, that mechanical room keeps going based on the needs for whatever it is. So, maybe it's like a really big shop. Maybe it's something. I just imagine it either being mechanical or like a shop or some space where you need to be able to bring in large stuff and lots of stuff. In all reality, it could even be like a trash enclosure. So let me let me take a little closer look real quick.
Chris.
Like I said,
Oh,
yeah, keep going.
I was gonna say in the elevation, one of the elevation views, it looked like there was a place for people to pull up, like a, I don't know. I mean,
Well, that's why I say trash enclosure. Do you think that sounds about right?
no, it's more like a pickup drop off kind of area. But obviously, and I thought the same thing for that. But then it also looked like it was below grade. Something gave me the impression that it went down to the lowest level of the structure. It like I think it went back down because on the west side of the building, I went, like the lowest grade. Then I came back up to 4'6". Then on the right side in that upper like east corner, northeast corner, something gave me the impression to drop back down to like the lowest grade again.
No worries. Give me a second to find this in Google Earth. Yeah, so here's some mechanical equipment, and then right here is that green big dumpster. So I'm betting, this might be like a 2-door swing gate here, or like I still think it's like trash enclosure here. You have mechanical equipment, and then down low underneath below grade, you have your larger mechanical stuff that they need down there, along with whatever is going on here. Let's see. I bet these are all old. Yeah, it's a trash enclosure. So the new building's built in this spot, but if the trash was here, the trash is probably still here, just from a logistics standpoint. So mechanical trash, whatever you want to name it. I'm giving y'all a few liberties as far as what you want to name rooms and what it is, just because not everything is named. But feel free to take some liberties there.
Thank you.
So does anybody else have any more kind of questions about this project in particular? If not, I was going to kind of open it up to like the larger question pool, whether it's about the professional world or my stuff or, whatever you're interested in. Just because since this is kind of our last class, just open it up, chat a bit, have fun with it.
I'm sorry, then before we go on, then really quickly, what was the enlarged plans that you wanted for the bathroom? Was that, briefly, what was that?
I basically just wanted y'all to take a stab at enlarged plans. So whether you made them, let me pull it up real quick. You could make them kind of like how I made a sheet with all the stairs, right? So you could have it like that, where it's stairs and you had the dimensions, or enlarged bathrooms where you had just the bathroom and dimensions and stuff like that.
Gotcha,
if you look at if you log into our class page, D2L, under contents, you'll see kind of different example, kind of like early PD sets. You don't have to get as detailed as that, but just know that that's kind of the direction we're going. So I'm just trying to get y'all to get as close to that as possible. So you go to content, scroll down, there's example professional works, and then you'll see some different stuff. So there's two different kind of progress sets here. That's structural. Sorry, it's kind of hard to do it in here, but you'll see like A411 unit plans. Just I want y'all to do the same thing with like something, whether it's a bathroom, stairs, one of the larger rooms with some space in it. But let's see. You'll see A7.01, so I have no idea what page number that's going to be. But we'll just kind of scroll down to see if I can find it. But basically, look at a few of those enlarged plans, whether it's a unit or what have you. I think the other set might have some bathrooms in it, but enlarge them and kind of take a stab at documenting them, whether that's just calling out toilets and like paper towel hangers or whatever. Just get used to it, knowing that you're going to have to do that professionally. So here's kind of like your stair and elevator documentation. 7 points.
Okay, I got you.
Some of the unit ones for RCPs, but like here's a kitchen, right? You have a kitchen. You might have like a few dimensions just to say how long things are. So you'll dimension each piece of casework, so a 2-foot double door piece of casework, a 2-foot stove, whatever, right? And plan, and then you'll have elevations of what's going on. So if I were to zoom in on this guy, you'll see here you dimension how much width he had between the island, or whatever you want to call this little nook, and then the rest of the kitchen. He then did an elevation, and he dimensioned out, 2'8" for the space from the wall to the fridge over, a little 9-inch cabinet, 2 foot, 2'6", can't really read it, but you dimension that, and you might dimension the height, which he did over here. But usually it's just, these are used to help contractors either put the room together in the right way. So, the guy that comes in to build the casework, he can look at this and know what he needs to build, right? You're going to wind up doing these over and over again because they're custom per project. Here's a bathroom. He put a plan down. You can call out, granite bars, toilet paper, toilet, vanity, whatever you want to call out. But then he did elevations of them. So that's all I'm looking for, just to, enlarge at least 1 or 2 spaces.
Okay, thank you.
So does anybody have anything else? Has everybody kind of at least gotten started?
Definitely.
So from here, that's all I have. I'm obviously going to sit here and answer any other questions you have, but otherwise, that's it, guys. Thanks for kind of hanging out this semester. I know it's a little weird being digital, and thanks for sitting there with me with all the technology snafus I have when my Wi-Fi gave out and all those kind of shenanigans. But hopefully this gave y'all like a nice little jump in confidence as far as Revit goes, and hopefully y'all learned something that's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I'm curious what the next steps for Jocelyn and Sogol are. I've had Jocelyn in a number of classes, and I may just be her biggest fan, and I'm thinking may devote my life to maybe just cheering her on if I do nothing with my own.
Well, I would follow that up with not necessarily them, but I was just maybe for all of us that have now taken the Revit course, wherever we may be. I know. Yeah. What would be a recommended next step, Chris, for just kind of a practical in this day and age? What can we do with the Revit skills we've gained? Not to interrupt Adrian's question, Adrian, if that's all right.
I didn't even have a question.
Oh, but yeah, kudos to both of them for sure. We've all done well, but they've done way better.
No, you guys have all done well. I feel like we've all are at the same stage, like in terms of Revit. I mean, we've all done the best that we could. And I appreciate the comments.
Well, yeah, guys, like, as far as like what happens next, like, you know, so much of it's going to be up to y'all and like what y'all pursue and go after. And, you know, dare I say it, COVID might actually help, which is going to sound weird because at the same time, originally I was super worried about it like hurting, obviously. You know, now you have this freedom of, you know, depending on who you work for, like you can work from home, which means you may not have to worry about a long commute or whatever. My office has been like 50-50. Like we went in because we have a partner that's really antsy about being social with everybody, and that's the only reason why we went back in. But then we have other firms where my coworker's wife, it's like multiple people in the office have up and moved to states to either be closer to family or to be somewhere that they wanted to be. So I know two people that left California to go to Minnesota because they have family there, and they can actually afford to buy a house there now versus, you know, waiting like a decade to get enough money to buy a house in like San Francisco, if ever, right? You can start thinking about like what you want to do. So I know most of y'all wanted to do like homes and stuff like that, and you know, there's a market for that. But you know, there's also a bigger picture. Like you could work as a, you know, a guy that reads plans for a general contractor. So I forgot what that job title is, but basically you can work construction side where you're the guy helping the general contractor read plans, tell the workers what to do, get dimensions on different things to help them build the building. You have services kind of like what I named earlier, Evolve Labs. There's they used to be called Initial. Let me pull some stuff up real quick. For a few of the more kind of like crazy tech savvy people that get good at Revit, like I'm not going to say even better than me, but obviously even better than me, become like BIM managers. So they have places like, I know it's called something else now, but I guess it's NGAEC. But they have places where you're a technological partner for architects. So they'll train people on, you know, how to use Revit. They'll train people on programs. They'll be consultants for them. You have people like Group 14 that literally just does like engineering for like energy and stuff like that. And they utilize Revit models to do sun studies. They, like, here's that library that I actually showed you at the beginning of the semester. They're just a consultant that analyzes buildings for, you know, daylighting, for thermal properties, for various other kind of bits and pieces. But they did my rec center. What else did they do? They've been on a lot of my projects, but yeah, you'll see them on a lot of different things, and they just take models and analyze them. So, like this building, they're showing, you know, a SketchUp model. They just analyzed it for daylighting or for energy or whatever, and you can just utilize those skills to get jobs, and whether in architecture or not. They also have places here in Denver where I forgot his name, but there's a dude down in Centennial. He owns a company that does like custom kitchens. He'll actually get you to build Revit models for, appliances, for cabinets, for different stuff like that. That way, since he's a consultant for an architecture firm, he can provide the architecture firm with, custom casework, custom everything to match whatever the design intent is. So you could go that route. You're kind of architecture adjacent. You're creating stuff for architects to use, but may not specifically be to create buildings. You may just be creating pieces, right? And it's it's all up to y'all and your preferences. So for people that dive directly into architecture for firms, you'll be an architecture intern. I think they changed that to now it's like designer, just because intern is such kind of a badly perceived word sometimes. There were times where it's like I was like 5 years in, and it was like, some big burly guy's like, he doesn't know what I am. I'm just in a meeting, right? He's like, "Oh, you're an intern. Are you here for just the summer?" Because they think you're you're still in school. And it's like, no, I'm a working professional. I've been here 5 years. Like, it kind of blows their mind. So them changing it from intern to designer is a little better to me. But you can get a job working for a firm. You can do red lines. There are firms like, so let's see, there are firms like Dina, where they do cool stuff, but they only do design, right? So Dina literally only cares about design. They will actually pay a different architect to do the drawings. So you could just wind up using Revit to just build masses to design these things, right? So this building right here, this kind of metal panel, let me go find it real quick. Because these guys are actually the architect on a few different projects I've worked on. And they really need to add on to their So like this, right? My firm technically did these two buildings, but Dina designed them, right? So they did the design, they picked the colors, they kind of, we were their client. I mean, they were our client basically, and they designed the idea and the shape, and then we had to do all the documentation. And the other one I was going to was this guy, the Source Hotel. So this was GKK and BRS and Dina all did this building. So Dina did the design. So he created this kind of kooky, rotated square object super close to this building, which is a little sad because I like this building. But they just created the mass and they did the design and all that stuff. But then they paid GKK, which no longer exists. It is now Canon Design, because I used to work there, to do all the documentation. So they did DDs through CDs and CA to get the building built. But then the thing about lots of Zeppelin projects is they have like different shops inside of here. So all the TI, tenant improvements, were actually done by BRS, which was also a firm I worked for. So, that's an option. Are you going to do design and construction? Are you just going to do design? You'll see different firms say they do design build. And, it's literally going to be, lots of firms will do design and construction. That's most firms. But every now and then you'll find a firm in town that'll do just design. That's kind of nice. Like, you don't have to worry about the realistic nitty gritty details of, oh my God, this column isn't landing exactly where I want it to be. What do we do? You just say, hey, I designed it. That's my design intent. It is for you to figure out. Good luck, right? So some people like that. And you'll find just a plethora of different options. So there's tons of markets out there. And everybody's experience here is going to be different, right? So I like to stick to more of a mixed bag just because that's the way I prefer it. I know I currently work for a firm that does one specific thing, but I prefer the mixed bag of everything. So you'll find places like architectural work. Yeah.
That's too bad about the source before you leave that slide. That really leaves that whole like big building in the shadow.
Yeah, so if you people that don't know this building, there's this old, I forgot, 1901 or 1910 warehouse that's right along the railroad tracks. They turned it into this really nice like bar and restaurant place. It's huge open volume. It's really super nice. And it used to have kind of just this gravel dirt parking lot up front, and that's the hotel lives. And then they decided, hey, we wanted to build a, you know, they wanted to build a hotel next to it to kind of bring people in. They had all these issues with it, so they had the crane that was bringing in lots of the construction material actually fell into like a, not a sinkhole, but it fell in and caused a lot of issues in the parking garage, market hall. The hotel actually covers up a nice chunk of the building, so like that picture looks nice, but it's, I don't want to say it's all Photoshop, but it doesn't look anywhere near that nice just because it covers up most of the building nowadays. But you wind up with this like super industrial interior where like they just put a bunch of metal studs as a handrail and they didn't finish anything else off. You can see like every brick. You can see different places where they infilled it at. They got these really neat, big, nice glass doors and some garage doors that open up. But it's a really cool place. It's a little pricey, but I definitely like it. So feel free to go check it out. The hotel kind of blocked it off a bit, but so be it. But that whole area has changed so much, so it's kind of crazy. So like you'll find places like Architect Workshop where their portfolio is like a mix of everything. So it's like you'll get housing, but then you'll also get, like commercial business interiors kind of stuff. Sometimes you'll get rec centers and gyms and theaters and restaurants. So that's kind of like a nice bag of like, different stuff, if you will. And there's tons of firms in town, so it's just going to be all about what you want to do and finding that. And then, what kind of person are you? So small firms, like, do you like knowing a smaller number of people, but you have to know them well, right? Or for me, like I tend to be more of a quiet person. So bigger firms, I can kind of blend in and I find the people I like and I can befriend them. Otherwise, I just kind of stay to myself. It's easier at a bigger firm than it is a smaller one. So it's, so much of it's going to be up to your preferences. Let's just call it that.
And just following along with that, where do you have any like resources that we can like search for like opportunities, or is there anything that you would like advices to look for, like a certain website?
So I tend to use Glassdoor a lot, but it's only because Glassdoor also has reviews about companies. So, in the past, like decade or so, we've kind of entered this new paradigm where in a company, has to be responsible for its own books, but also like its people, right? So if you go to Glassdoor, you'll start seeing reviews of companies, but you have to keep in mind that there's always going to be bad actors, right? So if you go to company reviews, I'm going to bring one up, and oh God, how do I say this? Like I said, there's going to be bad actors and there's going to be bad companies, right? So what you run into, you're going to have to feel it out. And like I said, everybody's going to be different. But you can find job opportunities on Glassdoor. You can find them on Indeed. You can find them on AIEA Denver. you can find them just about anywhere. But what happens is you'll see here, it's like McPherson Architecture. That's a firm in Denver. It's right next to Coors Field. Some, and not all, but some. Let's see. Sorry, let me. So here, but in general, you'll be able to see reviews of different places. I probably shouldn't have signed in with hers, but in general, you can find jobs, you can find reviews of different firms, read through them, see what other people thought, yada, yada, yada. AIA, Colorado. We'll also have like a job board. And AIA, it's a weird thing. Like, I'm not a socialite, so I don't really utilize it. But it does have its perks. If you're kind of a social person that likes to get to know other people that are in the same business as you, if that's your thing, you can meet, they have events, so you can meet people that are in other firms, kind of grow that pool of professional people that you know. But, there's listings here. And then there's also, you can reach out to CCD. They usually have a person that helps you kind of like get prepared with like the stuff you may need. So they'll help you, they'll review your resume, they'll review your portfolio, your cover letter, all that stuff to help you start applying. They may also know people. Lots of times there's recruiters. So, you can have somebody kind of do a little bit of searching for you so you can do it a little less. The other thing I'll say is you can also look at like firms' websites. And lots of times they'll have either like a contact you page or like a career tab. So if you go to like About Us and Careers for different firms, it's like San Francisco, they're looking for a job captain. They'll explain what they're looking for and how to apply. Other places will just have you send in their information. So don't be afraid to like look up a firm and look at their stuff. I usually do it a lot just so I can apply directly to like what kind of things they're trying to be. So, they'll have words that they think are inspirational. So it's like you can design and build wonderful places for people, right? You can kind of write your cover letter or pieces of your portfolio more towards that kind of thing. So to give you an idea, I have friends that work at EYP, which is a healthcare firm. They don't work at the Denver office; they work at the Dallas office. But you can read their expertise, and they'll be like, "We like high performance buildings that support people with a purpose." You can kind of start seeing what they're into and what they like, and that can help you kind of steer things, right? There's a variety of different ways you can go at it from. So that's kind of the best I can do. Let's put it that way. Just because there's so many different options. So you can apply on like a job board, whether that's Indeed, dare I say Craigslist. There are actually firms on Craigslist, and just kind of look around. You'll find different stuff. And you can look up anything from designer to draftsman to, like architecture, like engineer or draftsman. There's going to be a plethora of different titles. And sometimes you'll see ones that want more experience than you have. And my advice is go ahead and apply for some of them, just because there's always that chance that they're looking for somebody like more entry level, or that they're willing to accept somebody more entry level. And then, as always, nowadays people use LinkedIn to kind of meet and greet people and kind of give them an idea. So I don't know how y'all feel about it, but I know some of y'all probably will like Pinterest just from the kind of like projects they have. But you're always going to find different firms that do different stuff that you may or may not like. And so, you know, if you like custom homes, like some of y'all may like, you know, smaller firms. So let's see. Studio 646 is like an ex guy from Oz, and he does some really good work, whether that's custom homes or multifamily, and he even does like a little bit of commercial. Some bigger firms that do custom housing is going to be stuff like Golden Sudic. I'm going to misspell the name horribly just because I don't remember the name. But, you know, they do housing as well. There's going to be firms that do like, I like civic judicial work just because like sometimes they're like in theory, courthouses used to be kind of like prestigious, right? They're like a fancy building. They're like 100 years old. People always remember them. I fell into this thing where I've done a few over the years, so I like them a little bit. So places like Roth, Shepherd, they do a mix of like police stations, libraries, restaurants, and they're all going to name their stuff differently because they think it's cool, right? So it's like Eat is going to be restaurants, Serve is going to be like police stations or maybe like a little bit of military stuff. But like they did the View House, which I think is pretty cool. Their work for police, you know, it sounds boring because you think, oh, it's a police station, it's not going to be anything fancy. But like they wind up doing stuff where it has like, you know, your crazy sloped roofs, like, you know, like this. I think it's pretty exciting. It's mostly going to be you looking at different firms to see what you like and what you're into, and is that something you're interested in? So one of my buildings is right next to this guy, and I like this building a lot. And on my building, I actually copied this building just because we liked it so much. But you know, different stuff. So let's see. So you could work for a general contractor, right? So general contractor, you know, they can have careers that involve Revit. You'll be a guy that takes Revit models from the architect, grabs dimensions here and there when they need it to maybe like clips together stuff for ASIs if you have questions about how something's built to send to an architect. It's not a like creative job, but it's a job, and it's one that you have specific goals in mind. So I was hoping this would go a little quicker, but in general, you'll see that they do lots of different projects from different firms. So, you know, some stuff's gonna be boring, like Hobby Lobby, right? Strip mall. Some stuff's gonna be interesting, like new buildings coming up in town. But you'll get to do a little bit of everything. I went to this project because this is my project that's across the street from that police station. But you know, there's gonna be different, you know, different firms for different people. So, and if you all have something specific that you're kind of curious about, I can give you names if you want, as far as like firms to look at. But like I said, it's gonna be up to y'all.
So it's just kind of an obvious question, but at the like, assuming we pass this course, are we Revit certified?
So certification, you advertise that you have a skill set to use Revit and all that stuff. Revit certification, you can actually pay to to take a test to be a certified Revit user. That is going to take a little bit more experience on y'all's part. Like, I'm not saying you couldn't pass it right out of this class, but it's going to take some more experience. It's a test. You have a time limit, you have specific goals, and they introduce things that are tricky, that, stuff that I may slip up on, kind of stuff. So you're just going to need more experience in it. And that, in all reality, I'm not going to say it gets you anything specific, but it would help you get in the door. Because what's going to happen is some of these firms are going to give you Revit tests. So I know a couple in town. They're going to give you Revit tests. You're going to do an interview, my hour, and they'll be like, hey, before you leave, can you take a test real quick? They'll give you literally like a 2-story shed and be like, hey, here's what I want you to draw. They'll give you like, I don't know, like a sheet of paper or two and be like, make this, and you have 20 minutes. They may not expect you to finish it, but they will expect you to do most of it in that amount of time. And that's just showing them that you know Revit well enough to they need you to do. So I'm trying to remember their name, sorry. Let's see.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
At CCD, they do have the Revit certificate. I'm gonna add it to the one I'm doing, and it only asks you to take the first class and advanced Revit. So I don't know. I know it's a little bit different from Autodesk, but
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can advertise that on like your resume and portfolio. So for me, let me pull it up in the background real quick. I'll just show y'all kind of what I have for when I apply for like jobs and stuff. And I'll show y'all what I had originally, just so that y'all aren't too afraid of craziness.
So there's a difference between certified and having the Revit certificate. Is that what Jocelyn was just saying?
Yeah. So what y'all have is like, CCD offers a Revit certification program. You can get that certificate, and when you apply for your job, where I would say I have a master's in architecture from so-and-so, you could say you have a certification in drafting and design from CCD. So it's justifying your credentials in a way, right? And you would use that to apply for jobs. They would understand that you know how to draft and that you have a background that you understand architecture in, a variety of ways. Sorry, I'm looking for. I'm downloading the background real quick, so just give me a second. So these are older versions of what I've used in the past. So, you can design yours or you can make yours just like kind of standard piece of paper. So basically, I have my name, I have like kind of what I like. So I like architecture and digital fabrication. Sometimes I put where I'm from. So for instance, like this is old, but I live. There are tons of people trying to move to Denver. Put like my address and where I'm from here, simply because I could then pass through that, right? Doing an interview or like a phone interview, free like an in-person interview, I could literally, have that listed there so they see I'm local. I don't have to kind of wait in line to see if they're going to try to hire somebody that would move from, California or New York to come here, right? I can give them my phone number in case they want to contact me on an email. And then I just say, hey, like, I'm looking for a challenging position to utilize my skills. You know, you'll have something that you want to say about yourself, whether that's what you're interested in or like your skill set. So I have like my, and then I have skills. So I say, hey, I know AutoCAD, Revit, 3ds Max, a bunch of other stuff. I talk a little bit about my education and like when I got it. And then I'll say like different firms I worked at. And then, you know, if you win awards, you have some different stuff like that. And then at the bottom, I usually say like recommendation letters and references upon request, just because some firms still want recommendation letters. Most places will ask for references, but you may not always give that out first. And I usually make this sheet just to kind of grab a little attention. So it's something more interesting than like your standard piece of paper. But that's my version of a resume. And you'll find tons of different ones. So you can go to places like Issue. So let's see you. Oops. I use issue.com to host my resume portfolio in case they ever want to see like online copies instead of like a PDF. So there have been times where you'll go in to like do an interview, and old school, I have old school and modern, is what I call it, versions. So I'll walk into an interview with a portfolio that is a bound printed object that they can flip through like a book, right? But we live in a whole different world where that doesn't happen often. So technically, they'll bring you to a conference room. Conference room will have a TV. You know, they can look up your link there and have your portfolio that way. You could tablet, show them your portfolio and resume that way. There's a variety of ways now that we can do it. But here, I recommend Issue only because if you type in like architectural portfolio, you turn on the capital, but you'll find just different ones from different students. So, you know, you'll find people usually put their name on it, but you'll see just different versions of portfolios so that you have a variety of options so you don't get on one or the other, right? You can see versions of resumes from around the world. Like not all of these are going to be like American ones or anything in particular. But you know, feel free to just click on somebody's and it'll open up a little page. You know, this is not, you know, Sharma. He has a bachelor's in architecture. You know, yada yada yada. You can see, you know, their skills. This is their version of their resume built into their portfolio. You can kind of flip through it and see like how they present their work and get ideas on how you want to present yours, right? So it's just helpful to see somebody else shows their stuff to help you kind of show yours. And then you can share these links with people in case you ever want. So like if you send stuff up for a job, you can be like, hey, here's a link to my portfolio and resume. So let's see. I probably haven't updated mine in a while. But I try to update mine every now and then. But you know, here's mine. I have kind of my skill education and then the places I've worked for, my job titles and like what that means. Table of contents and just little examples of like each one of my projects. And so you can create something like this. You don't need to get a job, but it's just helpful in case they ever ask. So that's kind of the I tend to go. But yeah. Is there anything else?
I just want to know, like for us, some job they kind of ask for 2 years of experience, 3 years of experience, but I don't know how we can get that kind of job as a draftsman or designer. What do you think? Like, I don't know. We should do from there because most of the job just kind of they ask for 2, 3, 4 more years, of experience. That's just the thing that.
So my advice is always like, read the write up, and if it's within reason, like apply for it. I had that same issue like when I graduated from school. It's like get multiple experience if I have none. Like it kind of doesn't make sense. What's going to happen is you're going to apply for those jobs, and eventually somebody is going to be curious enough just to give you a chance, or at least give you an interview. And that's all you need. It's not about, it's not always about experience. Let's put it that way, right? So you can get your foot in the door with anything, honestly. So for instance, like my current job, I applied for it and they wanted, I think, 10 years of experience. And I think I have like 7 or 8. And I had a license, right? So they're like, okay, like you're close enough, right? So then they're like, okay, let's bring him in and see if he's a good fit or if he can we can bridge the gap. So what my firm decided to do was, hey, I was close to what they wanted, but not quite. So they're like, okay, how do we balance this out? So if they wanted project manager level person and I'm a hair under that, how about we get you in a draftsman? Therefore, I know enough to tell like an intern to do, and I can lighten the load on a project manager. So then it balances out just buying a project manager. So firms are willing to negotiate stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So are there any types of people kind of want to do or kind of curious about what names might be out there?
One of my previous instructors kind of admitted that he does kind of little side hustles. I'm wondering if everyone at firms has that option of, or desire even, to spend additional hours just doing projects on their own.
So that's going to be a firm by firm thing. Let's put it that way. So for instance, I'm a side hustle, right? I work for an architecture firm here in town. I teach on the side. And the Revit's basic course teacher does the same. And so does, I think it's Introduction to Rhino. Yeah, she does the same. So not everybody has one. You don't have to have one. Some of us do. And some firms are okay with it, some firms aren't. So, for instance, BRS, Barker Rinker CAD, they do recreation centers. Them and I think it was Architecture Workshop back in the day, they put it this way. They're like, we want you working on other projects for other firms. So you can't work for another firm. You can have a side hustle like you do, furniture, custom homes, whatever. But, you can't let it interfere with the job you have. And lots of times when you read your contract for employment, it'll say moonlighting is what they call it, right? So, firms don't want you to moonlight. but in all reality, you can. So, one of the girls I know here in Golden, she works for a firm, and then she does like DIY small home projects on the side as like a side gig. And that's most because she has, the strong work ethic to want to work like another job. And then it's just helpful from, she has two like 3 and 5-year-olds. So, she needs more income. That's one way to do it. And then some people do it as a way to build their base, right? So for me, my biggest issue is I know I'm young and I don't really have that the go get 'em personality as far as like pulling in clients to want to open my own firm. Nor do I have like the business background to know, numbers and kind of all that kind of above me stuff. But I do like the idea of doing my own design versus working for, a 70-year-old guy who doesn't want to retire and doing his version of design.
And now you have like 6 people that could draw for you too. So there's that.
But I don't have the background and experience to run a business. So I could horrible crash business because I didn't, quote the right number of hours to budget for a project, and we just go in the red and we all wind up jobless and homeless. There is the part that scares me, and I'm not the type of person to go for it. Let's put it that way. At least not yet in my life. But
I'd like you to be that guy, Chris. I was thinking that I'd organize all of those kind of people under one umbrella and organize and getting. I mean, it seems like there's a ton of opportunity with people who have the technical skills and can organize for the smaller contractors or whatever who need or overflow from other firms or whatever. And I had this idea early on, which kind of brought me back into this environment, and I just think there's a ton of opportunity. So when my previous instructor said that he kind of does things on the side, and knowing now that you guys do, I'm like, gosh, there's something there that needs to be explored. And if you could organize all this talent, bring it under one roof, and then just be the go-to for, like I say, either overflow work or small one-off jobs that people just need plans for or whatever. I'm pretty sure there's opportunities there.
Yeah, there really is. Like, as an example, since you're talking about it, so back where I'm from, there's only 2 firms in the firm, and lots of times, people want a house, right, or an addition, and the first thing they think is, hey, I'll go to a contractor or a custom, like an architect for a custom. And what happens is just the base fee for like an architecture firm is so expensive to like lots of home buyers like just right out the gate, because you're paying for an architect, you're paying for his staff, you're paying for his overhead in his office, all these things which can be overwhelming to a family or just a client who may have a small business or a house or whatever. So then you find people, what they did, like where I'm from, architecture was actually for, I'm going to call her an interior designer, but basically she ran a quote unquote design firm, and she would charge you a small fee, and you would design something for, she would design something for you. You would then take those plans and bring it to a contractor to build the house. And so you got something custom, but it was still cheaper than an architecture firm to then contractor to get your custom house, whatever you're at. Communities like that out there and exist, and it's just finding them is the issue. So, lots of people don't think about that as kind of a loophole.
Chris, up here, I don't know if you're interested in looking, but up here where I'm living, I live in Salida, Colorado, and I'm working for Paul Inge. And I think a lot of folks do that up here exactly, is they don't necessarily involve an architect. I think for residential places, you don't need an architect. You just need somebody to design something that the county will approve.
So to give you an idea, you don't have to be an architect almost at all. You can actually, for instance, you can design and build anything that I think the number is 25 square feet. It might be wrong, so feel free to check me on that. But anything that you can get past the city that is 2,500 square feet, you can do without a licensed architect. And then I'm going to go as far as you can run your own design company architect. So, for instance, this is a firm, like, don't take this as a recommendation. A firm that in Golden that does, big time work. They like
Bowling alleys.
what?
Oh, I lost the audio. I think I know Studio Lemonade. I thought they did a number of bowling alleys.
Yeah, no, they do bowling alleys, they do ski hotels, and a bunch of other stuff. I a like contractor for like 3 or 4 months just because they had too much work. And so what you'll find out is you and bounce from firm to firm because sometimes some of these firms they don't want to acknowledge they don't have enough work to hire, at the moment, but they're overwhelmed and don't want to give work away. They will do like contract work where it's like, hey, like, can you come in and help me, 20 hours a week for 6 months or whatever, right? So these guys, so just to give you an idea, let's see. They're big chain of hotel. And they don't have a lot of images of it, but this is the Breckenridge that they just finished up last year. But, they do this. The owner of the firm isn't an architect. So he does all this. He does like a little bit of commercial, all sorts of kind of different little stuff, but he's not, so he can get away with it just because the size of it may be small enough to get away with it. Trying to think who else is out there. But in general, you don't have to get a license to do the things you want. And so small towns, yeah, Salida, like me and my wife, like we drive through there often just to go to Ouray. We love Ouray. I would love to live in Ouray. And yeah, you could do small time work like that. There's always somebody needing fixes for a house. Lots of people can't visualize things, right? So we have the ability to read plans, right? To, design and build space where some people may not fully understand that, right? And it's such a little thing, but it becomes important because some people just don't have that understanding.
So on the same rabbit trail, is there, I know all of us have taken other courses. Is there kind of a singular course that you would recommend aside from Revit that all of us need to take in order to really be marketable?
So let's see. It's going to vary so much. So like lots of times I would say stuff like AutoCAD because there's always smaller firms that still may be in AutoCAD versus Revit. There are contractors that are going to be in AutoCAD versus Revit. So I know consultants that are still in 2D and they want AutoCAD to kind of draw in what they're putting into my buildings. There are, interior designers that are still in CAD. The place I just showed y'all, Studio Lemonade, they do CAD and Revit, but they're primarily in CAD. That's probably one of the first ones I would say to know, just in case you run into one of those firms that's smaller and kind of more niche that would do those kind of things. So lots of your, ski resort, like architects, like there's always that one architect in town that like lives in Vail, and you're like, how does he pull this off? And he only does like custom homes or whatever. Those guys are usually in CAD.
I think everybody in Salida is using AutoCAD.
Yeah, that's it's an old program. Lots of people still know it, and what happens is it's not about it being a better or worse program. It's just about them being able to work in it. So the way I would put it is there's a firm called I think it's DTJ in kind of Broomfield. Let's see. Maybe it's Boulder. But they do lots of your climbing gyms. They do custom homes. And the way he puts it is, it's a small firm. I think they're only like 6 people maybe. But owner, yes, his job is to go get work, but at the same time, it's small enough to where he also wants to be part of the work, right? He wants to, he wants to prove himself not only as breadwinner for the firm, but he also wants to do the work himself. I applaud that, because lots of times there's a disconnect where your head honchos of these big firms, it's like work, but they're not always doing that. So you're kind of like, what are they doing? So I always applaud when I see firms kind of out there, doing both. May not be teaching something along those lines. I feel like it's in Broomfield, but let's see. But I applaud when somebody wants to do that. I'm an older person, older generation. I don't know Revit. People are using it, but I feel more comfortable in AutoCAD because that's what I know. Or, if you're under a deadline, right, which happens to me all the time. I'm under a deadline. I've worked my butt off. I just need somebody to help me. And, he's like, we don't have the staff, but I can help you because I know AutoCAD, right? So he feels comfortable doing that versus learning something new. So that to me is helpful. So you're going to find firms that are going to be in AutoCAD. I would say like Adobe stuff, just from a point, you'd learn Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, but then you can also create like marketing materials for people, which is where like renderings come in handy, right? So let's see. I'll just be for now. Firms will market like what's on the boards, right? Like what they're working on for stuff. So here it's like this rendering and this rendering are mine, right? I've created marketing materials for a firm now. This guy's mine, which is actually the project I opened tonight for Odyssey. And, they can market this stuff. They can put it on their website for people to see. They can send it out to clients to be like, look how cool this building is. Don't you want us to do ours? Start learning stuff like InDesign. You can start combining pretty pictures with Word to start making kind of like marketing packages. A marketing package I can find pretty easily. It's always kind of hard to find one because I don't feel like they put it somewhere there. So here, like they have, and what happens is marketing people, they'll put like, if I want something built, I'll advertise it out there on a variety of different platforms, websites, newspapers, newspaper if I want. And they'll ask stuff called like RFQs and RFPs. So request for proposal, request for qualifications. And so as a firm, you'll have to present your qualifications. Why are you qualified to build this building for us? You'll make like a little PDF or presentation. And if you have Illustrator and Photoshop and kind of a variety of platforms, you can utilize that to start making booklets like this to send out. And, you know, you'll package to a client. They'll be like, hey, I picked you because you made this cool package, you know, speaking to your strengths or for your experience in a specific type of work. And so that is a position that is not only in an architecture firm, so you'll be kind of useful in multiple ways to them, but then it opens you of job, right? Marketing, you know, it's used in every business no matter what you do. So that's probably the second thing to learn. It's just the ability of programs. From there, that's probably about it. At least within the realm of architecture. There's always something else to learn. You know, SketchUp, you know, whatever you want to learn. But those are the different angles I would start at.
How prevalent is SketchUp in kind of the schematic phases of a lot of firms? I understand like Shears Adkins Rockmore, for instance, my understanding is they use SketchUp, and was wondering, like I said, how prevalent that is.
It's, my firm uses it, almost every firm uses it. Lots of people like learn it and prefer it as far as like, you know, like it's sketching. So people don't sketch on paper as much anymore, but you can kind of be loosey-goosey about your building design in SketchUp enough to get it across. So, you know, that lemonade place I showed y'all, that's all SketchUp. Davis Partnership, lots of their schematic design stuff is in SketchUp. My firm's a little bit 50-50, but lots of that stuff is SketchUp. The idea is that you can build a map simple enough to get the idea and communicate the look and design and kind of feel of the building without getting into the nitty-gritty detail, right? So SketchUp, you'll draw like singular planes with no thickness. So it's kind of like drawing a mass in Revit. You can just add more detail so it looks like a building. But if you were to cut a section to make like a floor plan, it wouldn't look anything like this just because it doesn't have thickness of walls. It doesn't have the, you know, smart pieces where I can tack doors and all that stuff. But it's prevalent across every firm. Like there are very few firms that don't use. Sorry.
Personally, I don't have anything. I just feel like there is a lot we should do from our side, and to try and get into be in this business actually.
No worries, no worries. Well, guys, I mean, if that's that, I'll call it a night. If you want to chat about anything, just let me know.
You've been a great instructor. Yeah, absolutely. Really appreciate all of your guidance, your feedback, your instruction. It's been great.
Yeah, no worries, guys. Thanks.
Was
first
this your
semester
first
teaching.
one?
It's my first semester teaching here, Revit specifically, and it's been a lot different just because it's all digital versus being at a school, and also like advanced versus standard, like intro. I when I was at, I worked for it. So I did the labs, as the lab manager, and you wind up teaching people Revit just because they need to, or program they're in there for. So I had to about everything for that. Yeah, that's my first time teaching this program, and I also got the heads up way too late. So like, I didn't 2-3 weeks beforehand, so I had to kind of throw everything together. So I'm just lots of it. I'm just working on cleaning up. So picking better projects, picking like a better mix, and I'm just trying to keep that lively enough to match everybody's preferences. I kind of met like another library, but I realized that until I realized, oh man, the first project library, last one's the library, like they're going to be libraries. But just trying to perfect that mix, and it's going to be, what is, intro and what is advanced, right? Like defining and where one ends and starts at is pretty crazy. And then they give you this list. So if you look at that list of kind of what we're going to achieve in a semester, wasn't by me for the semester. That was created by the school, and I have to cover all that in a semester. Challenging, which you'll see I kind of touch bases on it. Some things I may need to. I also am more of like a realist, so I want to teach more toward. So, like, to give you all an example, I taught myself Revit while in school. One of the professors said, "Hey, this semester instead of doing hand drafting or auto Revit, because that's what people are going to want you to do. Good luck." There was no Revit class at my school, so we had to just suffer through and make our studio project as Revit. And then, I did job interviews during that summer, and like, I had to say I know Revit, but I didn't know it that well. So I got lucky, somebody took a chance. Had to work a bunch of overtime to learn it, but I got that chance, and then here I am today. I have a license and I know it well. But that first job wasn't pretty. I did prison healthcare. So I literally did these tiny little pods where they have like a doctor behind like a CMU wall with a bulletproof window. So stick your arm through this hole. He gives you a shot, or he gives you the medicine through like a little passport. But that's, I got my foot in the door. So ever since then, that's been life.
Chris, in the chat section, a couple of us have posted our phone numbers too, so we can. What's that?
Yeah, I see the phone numbers coming through, so I wasn't sure if that was for me or for each one of y'all.
I think it's for all of us, and for when you decide to go out on your own, you need like 6 or 7 sketchers or CAD monkeys. Here we are.
No worries. I'm gonna post mine in there too. But yeah, like no worries. I'll try to reach out, and especially since we didn't get to like meet in person or anything.
What about the 3D models? Did those happen? I was late to class.
The guy never got back to me, and I think it's because they keep opening and closing the lab based on somebody was recently found with COVID, then they have to like shut down the lab for like X amount of time. So I'm still gonna press to get those printed, and I'll just reach out to y'all, via email or phone to when I have them or when they're done. I'm sorry I don't have those earlier because I've been trying to figure out what's going on over there just because he hasn't responded to me. So I don't know if he's sick or what happened with that, but I haven't gotten them.
Yeah, no worries. These are obviously unprecedented times.
Yeah, but good luck. And if y'all ever want to free to email me, normal. Be like, hey guys, let's meet up after. I can just chat about life somewhere. But
Chris, really quickly about some of those projects. I know late that I was missing one that I had to catch up on, but there's a couple grades I'm missing, and I don't know if that's because you haven't received something from me or if it's just on hold for some reason. But the 3D print one, for instance, I thought I got everything in, but I still don't have a grade. And
I still have a few I need to go through.
okay,
Print one's probably one of them.
okay,
Also, guys, I'm not going to post a homework on detail. I want you all to just email it to me. Just and just know that within a week, like it'll be returned to you. So feel free to ask questions and send some emails or phone calls.
Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, guys, hope, like I said, if y'all ever want something, just reach out. Good luck in the.
thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Chris. You have a good night.
Bye.